I just want to state upfront right now as a disclaimer that I'm no futurist. I can't peer into the future and prophesy. But I've studied other mentors. So today, this 5 future trends is a condensation and a filtration of many principles that have been shared by my own mentors, people that I follow and I learn from, namely Roger Hamilton. Ryan and myself, we belong to the Genius Group, an international global conglomerate of businesses called the Genius Group or the Genius University. And so we learn from our founder mentor, Roger James Hamilton. I also learned from Carrie Nieuwhof, who's a futurist, and also locally in Asia, Peng Joon. So I've kind of distilled all these elements and principles into these 5 future trends. I think this is so important, so critical for us to peer into the future of 2023 and beyond. So if I were to backtrack 3 years ago, and if I had the knowledge, if I had the insights, I probably would have done things very differently, right? So one thing that I've learned is that a crisis, what it does, amongst many things, is an accelerator. A crisis is an accelerator. And what I mean by that is that, can you imagine back then, before our lockdown, before our circuit breaker in Singapore, we were struggling. I still remember my staff team and even myself, I was struggling to fathom, to understand how do you do things remotely. Yeah, I was very reluctant to do things on Zoom. As a trainer, I can't just stand to a screen. I derive the energy from the room, right? So I was very reluctant, very slow, to be honest, until May circuit breaker, when the announcement happened that 2 months we can't do anything, we're just locked from home, and we had to pivot pretty fast onto online. Things accelerated. So back then, when I refused or I took my time to learn how to do this tech thing, right? All of a sudden, I had to do it pretty fast because my trainings were still ongoing. I just needed to onboard it on an online platform. So a crisis, what it does is that it's an accelerator, and it shows many cracks. It shows the pre-existing cracks or the predisposing cracks that we probably wanted to deny or ignore, and forces us to confront these issues and to make decisions. Now, understanding what we went through and survive it, I think we are better informed and I guess better postured to go into 2023 with these 5 future trends. Another thing I want to make sure, I'm sorry, I'm just taking some time to set the stage. Another thing I want to make mention is that, Glenn, if the future is so VUCA, V-U-C-A, and so unpredictable, how are we going to predict the future? And I think I mentioned somewhere in my EDMs or my mailing list, in my mailers to you, that while we cannot predict what happens to the economy or what happens to the weather, we can certainly predict human behavior. So I come from a psychological point of view or neuroscience, where it's because of human tendencies and human consumer behavior, we are somewhat able to make an intelligent guess and how humans will perceive and react and respond to, crises down the road. So let me dive right in right now. 5 future trends. I'm going to start off with the first one. The first one is disruption is the new norm. I mean, people talk about the new normal, the post-pandemic, disruption as a new norm. Disruption or crisis, what we've discovered is that crisis does not discriminate. A disruption does not discriminate. And what it does is that it affects everybody in the whole landscape. Every sector, every industry. If you're done retail, it would have disrupted you. F&B, travel industry, everybody was affected by it. It's how fast we respond to it, right? Or adapt to it. And by the way, someone was saying that, in 2020, 21, we innovated pretty quick, we digitalized and we transform and redesign ourselves. I don't think that was innovation. I think that was more adaptation. Real innovation requires us to really take control of our situation and think outside the box and project for the future. That's real innovation. So the first thing that this crisis does, one of the very first things that the crisis does is it breaks a model. It breaks a model, right? Those of you who have been running businesses, you will understand that your model is all of a sudden broke. Like for me, a lot of the training and the coaching had to be pivoted online. And I thought, and many business owners thought that it meant we had to change business or change industry, and the government actually promoted that and encouraged us to cross industry, because certain industries there was no more jobs, it was just eliminated. But here's where the danger lies in thinking that it's all about swapping or shifting industries. What is a better solution is to understand that models have been broken all along. It is not new. Way in the last century, when transportation was ruled by horse and carriage. Remember, in the early pre-World Wars, it was all about horses and carriages, right? And I wanted to show you this picture of a 1905 picture of a typical transport system in New York City, where it was all horse and carriages, horse and carriages. Just 10 years later, they took another photograph of the same busy street and it was filled with cars. So disruption is a new norm, and we need to stay nimble and agile in a post-pandemic world, because we have to expect more disruption to take place. But when disruption happens, I've learned pretty quickly over the last 3 years, we have to be careful not to change the mission for the method. Now, let me explain this clearly. What we can do is to focus and to reinforce the mission of your company, and in fact, your own future, your mission, while changing and reinventing the method. So here's the tagline: reinforce the mission, but reinvent the method. Your methods can change. Let me give you a couple of examples, right? I worked in a non-profit. And what happened was, during the circuit breaker, all our work was gone. In fact, I would dare say 90% of our business was gone. Like, there was a point of time within that 6 months that we thought of closing down, because we lost so much business. One of the main businesses that we did was, I worked with ex-offenders, and we trained them to be trainers so that we can bring them to schools or to the homes. So that was our main business, right? We tendered with government projects, and every week there would be programs in front, like in person, in front of these students or this group of participants. So once that closed for at least 6 months to to a year even, we were left with nothing. But then we went back and recalibrated ourselves. We asked ourselves this crucial question, which is, what really is our mission? As a non-profit, we want to equip our beneficiaries, the ex-offenders, with skills so that they can engage the community. Now, there could be a few impact bottom lines. For example, provide a sustainable career or job employment for them, for the beneficiaries, or to make a social impact, especially with younger generation students who were also at risk. So, our beneficiaries were taught to share their stories, their experiences, their lived experiences, and their testimonies, so that to prevent young people from going down the same route. So we thought about our mission, and we said our mission still remains. In fact, we should reinforce our mission, but look around and change our methods. Our models were broken, right? So one day we were just sitting in a restaurant in Chinatown, and we decided, hey, we can't go into the classrooms, but we can certainly take them out, right? Especially during phase 2, where there was like 5 in social distancing, 5 per group. And we could do a tour in Chinatown. And who better to do a tour and talk about the history of the seedy underbelly of Chinatown than our ex-gangsters? So we call it Triad Trails. Ex-gangsters trained to become tour leaders. So they were gang leaders, but now they are tour leaders. So some people said, oh, that was very innovative. Some people commented that, oh, we have changed our mission statement and become a tour agency. And we said, no, we are still educating. We're still in the business of training young generations, but it's just not inside classroom, it's outside. So there's just one very clear example of many, many other different businesses who have started thinking and making shifts in their models, but not their mission. Your mission still remains. So this is actually good news for us. Firstly, for those of us running businesses, and for those of us who are working in businesses. If you're an employee, and I understand there are many employees here today, one of the values you can contribute to your organization is to understand clearly your mission. Because your employer is wanting to invest in you if you have a very clear vision, for yourself and your future. So there's a mentality that we need to shift. And this is what Roger Hamilton told us before. He says, learn to shift that mercenary mindset to become more of a missionary mindset. And what that means is that take your job as if it's your calling, your mission, rather than a job that just provides an income for you like a mercenary with no heart, with no passion. Those of us who are business owners, how can we turn our business platforms or our businesses from just profit into purpose, right? From just income to impact, from just money to mission. And this leads me to my next future trend. So first future trend is disruption as the new norm, but the second one is let me go to it quickly. It's meaning as the new product. Some of you have actually received my mailer, and I kind of introduced a little overview of this second future trend. Meaning as the new product. I think what the pandemic has done for many of us is to cause us to reevaluate what is important in life, and then to prioritize what is important in life. Is it really about money? Is it really about working yourself 9 to 5 and then retire and enjoy the money that you've accumulated till we die? I think for many of us, and the Straits Times actually reported quite a bit about this year during the Great Resignation, that employees and consumers have changed their working aspirations, have changed their goalposts, that life is not just all about working and then coming back and then raising family. So what this has actually happened from a psychological point of view is, if you take a look at the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and many of us are familiar with this, right? You would notice that right at the bottom is where we call the survival needs or the basic needs. During the pandemic, what happened is that most of us relegated down the ranks down to the most basic and primitive level of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is survival. It was survival of our livelihoods. We need to make an income. Our families were depending on us. Even our own health was at stake because of COVID. But now with the post-pandemic, many of us have climbed up this ladder of hierarchy up to what we call the actualization level, self-fulfillment. And so today, with the Great Resignation, there's a whole manpower crunch that's happening. Businesses all around. Those of you who are running businesses, you probably understand staff shortage and the retraining and all that is not helpful at all. But if, as a business, we're able to attract talent by appealing to their purpose, to their sense of destiny and mission, there'll be many people who are looking out for that. That becomes the new yardstick, not just for employment, but for the way we run businesses. So one of the things that we are very passionate about at Genius Global and also our businesses is aligning our business goals to, for example, the SDG 17 Sustainable Goals. SDG stands for Sustainable Development Goals. And this decade, which is the second digital decade from 2020 to 2030, focuses a lot about that. Focuses a lot about sustainability, human rights, women empowerment, equality. All these are SDGs 17 Sustainable Goals, because there will be a major review come 2030. If your business aligns to some of these higher purposes, the chances of consumer and brand association or brand loyalty will be higher. If you're able to produce content, and it's not just for information or education's sake, but create meaning in those content, appeal to the actualization or the efficacy levels of consumers and readers, you would be a value creator. You're not just a content creator. So the challenge for many of us is, how do we produce better content, not just more content, but better content with more meaning? We need to be meaning creators. And once again, for those of you who are employees who want to bring value wherever you go to your companies, learn to align to the vision of the company and learn to ask and even challenge the conventional way of doing business or doing work. Does this fulfill a higher calling? Does this fulfill a higher mission, both in your life and to those around you? So this is the second future trend, which is meaning is a new product. Let's go to the third one. Number 3, experiences as the new platform. Experiences as the new platform. One of the things that the pandemic has kind of taught us is that we are human beings after all, and we cannot, subcontract relationship building to machines, to AI, to robots. Digitalization is here to stay, and we have to adapt and adopt very quickly. It cannot replace human interactions. And this year, with the opening all around the world, and particularly in Singapore, you have noticed that many people who are just craving for human experiences out there to party like this year end. Come on, so many of us who are going on what we call travel revenge, right? You've been cooped up for 2 years, 3 years, and now you just want to explore the world. What you are essentially craving for is that human touch or that experiential part of our being, because humans were not meant to just behave like robots, right? And so you will have noticed that in Singapore, ever since the last 6 months, we have had not just a resumption, but there has been a resurgence of experiential events. In fact, excuse me, our Singapore government has peered into its future as well and realized that to get ahead, we want to make Singapore a hub, a tourism hub, to be, if you can see this word here, best in class MICE events. And you will notice that we had our F1 with record-breaking turnouts, like all over Asia, all over the world, I would say. Look at the current FIFA World Cup. My God, people are paying like crazy. Do you know that the front row category seats in the Qatar stadiums go over more than 5 figures? Yeah, and they are circling around the black market. And in Singapore alone, I mean, you got Zook Out, we have all these conventions, the IT shows, the esports conventions, all with record turnout. And this is where the money is going, in the sense that people who are craving for experiences are beginning to understand the value of events and project management. Now, how does this impact us and what should we do? If you're a business owner, you cannot just hide behind a computer or with your IT automation system anymore. Hybrid is here to stay. Yes, you will still need to have all these digitalization platforms, but think about how we can engage the human senses and the human experience. Because after all, we're human. So I'd like to give you an example of what we call creating micro experiences. In the training company that we run, we realized that in our academy, while Zoom, we have gotten used to it, we need to have a hybrid model as well. And especially for those of us who are into the wellness industry, we realize that we need to get out there and there needs to be some touch points, like literally live in person, right? So there is a mix of that. Previously, training used to be in a classroom. Those of you who are in the info space and your trainers yourself or coaches, you realize that you cannot just resume back to the pre-COVID days, because that's not where the value is anymore. If you wanted information, if you wanted training, we can just go at a click of a button, go to YouTube, it's everywhere. Curriculum and content is free. So where does the human experience come in and at what point? And that's where there is what we call a golden era of coaching that comes in. The one-to-one, the personal touch. In fact, someone mentioned this, Kerry Newhoff, who's a futurist and an organizational consultant. He says that with the resumption of in-person events, it needs to be even more personal. And I'll tell you why this is important. Because at the EQ level, from an emotional level, we feel more attachment to people who care for us. I'll give you an example of how recently we are going Christmas shopping, right? Everywhere is so crowded. And when I went to a particular store to ask for certain items, we were buying for children. Yeah. And I asked, hey, do you have this? Do you have that? The store service staff, I know she was busy, but she merely just pointed and said, oh, it's over at the end. Go get it yourself. And I was just thinking to myself, now where people are starting to come into the stores, like into retail, and we get this kind of service treatment, wouldn't I have been better off just clicking on some buttons on my computer and order an online with delivery? So experience, service experience or user experience matters these days. I went to another store and here was a more helpful girl with a smile on her face, and she would walk with me all the way to the end of the aisle and even continue to engage me in conversation, asking me questions, and thereby qualifying my needs. So think about these micro experiences that we can create as businesses. I attended a couple of in-person events, anniversaries of organizations, and there was one particular anniversary event just last month that really stood out from the rest. What happened was, it wasn't just an email that was sent to me, an official invitation from the office. There was a follow-up text from various people like right from the top management, as well as those from the bottom. And it didn't sound spammy because it was well crafted. It wasn't like a machine generated text. And then there was a couple of calls towards the week because I had not RSVP'd, and so they were concerned and they stated their concerns over those texts. Altogether, just for that one anniversary event, I had 3 emails, 2 were reminders. I had a total of about 4 or 5 texts that showed their concern, and they were very respectful of my time. They said, only if you're free and available, could they drop me a call? And it was just a 2-minute call just to confirm certain things. And I had 2 calls. And I was just thinking, my goodness, they really care for their people, even the guests. Now, for those of us who just relied solely on the machines to do our job, the automated invite, dear friend or dear guest, we will be so pleased to have your presence at our event, our dinner. I would promptly ignore it because I was so used to working with machines, right, during the pandemic. So here is one tip for many of us, especially business owners, is to cultivate experiences to such a degree that you will become the talk of the town. Experiences matter because we are human beings. I wanted to show you this picture. Again, it's from the project that I mentioned to you about with my ex-offenders. So here is Alvin, and he's one of our ex-gangsters turned tour leaders leading a group of locals. What started as a project during the SRV days in 1 year ago in December, where the Singapore Tourism Board encouraged local tourism, and then they offered the Singapore Rediscovery vouchers. So we tapped on the donations as well. Now it's turned into a full-fledged business unit, and we are training more beneficiaries to lead tour groups, to engage them in public speaking, engage the participants at the social level, and to tell their stories. So what we call a triple impact bottom line. But all this is wrapped around experiences. We took students out, we took participants out of the classroom setting and put them into real life setting in a very innovative and I would say creative experience. This is number 3, experiences as a new platform or new currency. The 4th one is collaboration. Collaboration as the new vehicle. I mean, this is not new. Pre-pandemic, we all understood the value of coming together and collaborating, maybe even in a community. So there was such things like business networks, etc. But now in a post-pandemic, we realized that you can't just compete. You can't be seen as just wanting to, take on market share and become a market leader on your own and leaving a trail of others down the road. because this goes firstly against our sense of, like number two, meaning as a new product. It goes against the culture, the cultural dialogue of supporting one another. In our business networks, there are principles like a lifting tide, a rising tide lifts up all ships. So by banding together and to behave as a what I call a business brothers keeper as well, not only are you adding value to them, but to yourself as well, to be seen as someone who cares for others. But when I say collaboration as the new vehicle, I'm talking about new opportunities that come about through deliberate collaboration. What this means also for us as businesses is that, can we find like-minded people to band together to create new innovative markets as new innovative products for new markets? You see, if I have a particular market share of, let's say, a few thousand leads or database, and if you have a few thousand as well, and when we combine together, out of that spirit of collaboration, we're able to multiply our market share. So let me give you a very quick example on this. I'm checking on my list. Today, we talk a lot about the circular economy. But one of the key things that we need to understand is the ecological economy, where when we begin to help one another, we begin to grow exponentially. So this is the day and age that I've been telling some of my guys not to just find followers. It is a day and age not to just find farmers or employees. If you do have a passion, if you do have a desire to start something, this would be a great time to find founders. So a key thing in running a success or to start up a successful business is to find co-founders, because co-founders work differently than followers. Okay, one of the pain points in the last 2 years in Singapore was that because the government has been giving a lot of incentives and grants to employers, to businesses in hiring. You've got JGI, job growth incentive. You've got internship, apprenticeship programs. While that is good, as an employer, what I found out was that I was not getting people who were at the same wavelength as myself. And actually, for some cases, it became more of a hindrance than a value, because we had to start teaching them, coaching them. And while they were interns, right to say, but their mindset wasn't entrepreneur at all. And so we had to correct a lot of mistakes. Some of them don't have the heart or the passion. Many of them were saying things like, we only strictly work from home, and we only stick to these hours. So that was one of the pain points of founders like myself, because we wanted like-minded people who share the same vision and the same passion, so that we can push things forward at the entrepreneurial level. So my encouragement to many of us who want to start something, especially in the new year, is to first find co-founders rather than followers or employees. That will be a good start. Another suggestion for us, if you really want to make an impact in your work, in your dreams and aspiration next year, is to create communities. Communities is the new form of driving passion-based ideas forward, passion-based initiatives forward. So if you are a coach or a trainer, one of the key things that you can do is to bring about these like-minded practitioners and form a mini micro community among yourselves. Because when you're able to bring in more talent this way and form I would loosely call it a consortium, you gain more attention, you gain more mileage in terms of bidding for either projects or for moving ahead in a certain direction in terms of pioneering new work. Today, some of my work involves being part of many consortiums. And when we band together this way with a common vision and synergy, we are able to, well, firstly, get more jobs. through the tender process. But the other thing is that we are able to create more opportunities together. So my encouragement to all of us is to think collaboratively rather than competitively. At your job places, in the marketplace, who are those who have like-minded interests and aspirations like you? They can come together and begin to work out intrapreneurially, even in your organization, to create projects and experiences, meaningful experiences for your companies. And likewise, outside, what kind of interest groups are you part of? What common faith communities do you belong to? Can you come together and begin to do good? Because remember, meaning is the new product and collaboration is the new vehicle. I want to talk about the last one, number 5, which is brevity as the new format or the new form, either of communication, either of marketing, and even content creation. Now, what's brevity? Brevity has got to do with the short form or the shortness and the brief versions of long-drawn contents. One of my mentors mentioned that in this day and age, especially in the post-pandemic, everything is short-lived and everything is short form. What do I mean by that? Short-lived, take a look at your devices, your phone. Technology is not meant to live forever, certainly not. In fact, it's getting shorter and shorter, the lifespan, right? Until you need to upgrade again in 6 months' time. They're not meant to last even a year for many of it. Because technology is just advancing so quickly. What do I mean by short form? And especially in Asia. In the West, they are still relying on long form content pages. For example, your website or the landing page. No longer do people have the time or luxury of time to read through every single detail. So we want to keep things brief, to the point, using economical use of words and content. If you entered this webinar through my Eventbrite platform, well, firstly, the Eventbrite platform is very user-friendly, easy to use. I seldom got time to put it up on a proper microsite, right? So it's very short. There's no such thing as scroll through. Now, in the West, they're still relying on a scroll through effect because they still believe in the vested interests of the user. When you start scrolling on your devices, and reading, to them, they think that you have more vested interests and you almost own it. But here in Asia in particular, we want to keep these things brief. And now in the post-pandemic era, things are even shorter because there's such a clutter and inundation of content all over. Information is just all over. And the challenge for us is not to produce, again, more information, but more meaningful information that is used in an economy of words and space. Short form. Think about your marketing. Think about your social media. No longer do you need to write long forms. Even the reels and the stories are all short, 30 seconds or less. Videos speak louder than images, but shorter videos speak volumes because someone rightly said that attention is the new currency, right? No point producing a 3 to 5 minute video and people only cut off at 3 seconds. So brevity is the new format. Those of you who are in the lifelong learning business, I mean, if you have attended WSQ courses, if you have attended short courses during the pandemic, if you click on some online courses and training, you will understand that the trend now is into micro-credentials. So the next time you think about signing up for a 2 years, 3 years master's course, master's degree, think again. Because nobody knows the future really. You can be halfway through your candidature 1 year, and then the landscape moves. And all of a sudden, your academic pursuit is no longer relevant. So these days, the brevity of our own development is in micro-learning. Stackable, customizable to your own journey, to your own needs and your own learning track. So you can go for a 2-day course, you can go for a 3-month course, and you can stack them as the landscape shifts. And you can shift along with it in parallel to understand the needs, the current needs, and also future needs, so that you can be of better value. Let me give you an example of the current counseling landscape. I was a trained counselor many years in the business because of my psychological background. But these days, when I get a chance to advise my inner group, my own clients, my students, right, who are thinking of signing up for 3 years, 4 years even, I tell them to take it slow. Well, firstly, Singapore is really smart. 5-6 years ago, they already started not just to do stackable components and micro units, but they also understood that the credentialing must also be transferable. So, under WSQ or under some CPE, Council of Private Education modules, the units must be agreed to contain certain standards, right? And a quality assurance. So now what happens is that a counselor can get all these micro credentials, stack it up, and when the time is right, submit those units to be approved under regulating bodies, to be equivalent to a degree, for example. The units also begin to sharpen you in terms of your focus. So if you want to go into family counseling, for example, all the training components, all the training courses that you go to can fit, you can apply for those that are related to systemic theory, family counseling work, all this while holding on a job at the side. So brevity as the new format, how does it affect us? In our ongoing personal development, professional development, think about how you can upgrade yourself in short forms, in micro credentials, micro units, and continue to develop the event. As a business, how are we speaking to your audience in short form? And while injecting meaning, creating experiences, and even from an ecological point of view, building communities and collaboration, right? All the other future trends in short form. So these days, I also operate a digital marketing agency where we advise our clientele to say, keep things short. You don't need to educate too much. Also, needing to expand your customer journey, because the more platforms and steps that a customer gets to experience with you in short form and in bite-sized units or micro units, micro platforms, the more he's being exposed to your work and to your mission, and thereby turning from just a mere prospect customer to actually a long-term client as well. So it forces us as businesses not to just say, okay, I've got a product and I'm here to sell upfront. You need to have a sequence of events, what I call a customer pathway, so that they land from one point, one platform to the next, to the next, to the next. All this while you have to nurture and to cultivate a relationship with them, because it's all about customer experience and customer relationship. So there you have it, the 5 future trends. I've taken 45 minutes. The first one, disruption as the new norm. The second, meaning as the new product. The third is experiences as the new platform. Fourth, collaboration as the new vehicle. And lastly, brevity as the new language or format. At this point in time, I just want to end off and then take on some Q&A by first removing my advanced virtual filter. But to share with you some of my upcoming exciting programs next year. Those of you who are into businesses and entrepreneurship, or you are thinking about starting one, I would like to reinforce what I said in the middle of this year. There's no better time to start your business, especially in Singapore. First thing is so fast, 15 minutes, and there you've registered something. Secondly, if you're able to find co-founders and collaborators in the field who are like-minded, there are dozens out there, and also in our community. Thirdly, we are talking about Singapore, the best place to launch even your global product digitally or hybridly. So some of you know that I run this program called EAP, Entrepreneur Accelerator, to fast-track your post-pandemic business growth. What you can do is to watch your free training. I've got a full-fledged training that is condensed and also accelerated, sped up, so that it's not 2 hours anymore. It's actually less than half an hour. I'll give you the 5-stage lifespan, business lifespan, so that you know exactly what stage you're at and what you need to do to go to the next stage, because every level you have new devils. You cannot bring to the next stage of your business, for example, scaling, if you're not cleared certain levels of your stability. Also, I will share with you the 6 pillars of accelerated entrepreneurship, and they are all inside this free video. You can either scan the QR code, you get it as you get to download it and unlock that free video, or you can use this link. Maybe Ryan, if you can help to pump the link into the chat box, that would be cool. But for those of you watching this replay, it's all here on the QR code. Next, I understand some of you may need some personal help, and I often do one-on-one coaching. This is what I call a strategy call, and I'm offering it to you free, both at a professional level. If you're running a business, you don't know how to start, hey, let's have a call. 15 minutes is all that is needed to analyze your current state. And I will even give you references and maybe some help for your next stage, or what you need to do, your first action step. Some of you may need a more personal call. So it's not just your business or your career, maybe it could be your own personal health. And because I'm psychologically trained, and we've set up this year a platform called Breakthrough Academy and Therapy, I might be able to either give you that kind of support or referral, and maybe hear you out and point you to the right direction. So here you can book your free strategy call. The link is here. I hope someone can help to pump it in, or you can scan very quickly.